everyone, it's Rachel, and today I'm going to be trying a new technique that I have seen all over TikTok and Instagram lately because these videos keep coming up on my For You page and my Explore page. And that is using polymer clay to create a cane or almost like a slab of clay to then create some jewelry. I'm not entirely sure what this particular method or technique is called, but it does seem very popular over in like the jewelry making part of the clay community. So I've been getting really sucked into watching these videos. Pretty much you take a bunch of different colors of translucent clay and you chop it all up, and then you can mix it with different translucent clays, liquid clays, powdered pigments, alcohol ink, acrylic paint. I've pretty much seen everything just thrown in all the videos that I have been watching. Then once you kind of bring it all together and make your clay cane or slab, you cut it up and then it can be turned into jewelry pieces that kind of look like crystals or gemstones, and they have a really pretty look to them. I've been pretty mesmerized with these videos lately, and I feel like I have watched enough to kind of know what I'm doing. So I'm going to attempt to make some clay slabs today. I guess we'll see how we go. I haven't tried this before, so I'm really just planning to play around with it and kind of experiment what works and what doesn't. Before we get started, please give this video a big thumbs up, and also let me know down below what other videos you would like to see and maybe some other techniques you would like me to try out. So let's get started. Alright, so to begin, I've got the star of the show, which is going to be my translucent polymer clay. I'm going to be using the Sculpey translucent clay because that's just what I have available at the moment. Here I also have a container of gold flakes, and then I've prepared some translucent clays, translucent liquid clays. So I've got some different colors. I've got some white acrylic paint, and I'm also going to be trying out some alcohol ink as well to try and color my clay. The other things I grabbed were some cookie cutters in different sizes and shapes to make my jewelry, and then of course I'm also going to need a blade as well. So I'm planning to make 3 different slabs in this video. The first one is going to have a bit of a pink theme, so here I also have some Fimo rose quartz clay as well as my translucent clay. So I'm going to be mixing in just some small colors of regular opaque polymer clay, and I've chosen some different pinks, and I'm just mixing in a tiny amount because I know from experience if you mix in too much clay it becomes really dark and it's not very translucent at all. So here I'm just mixing, and you can tell that the colors aren't really too bright here. They pretty much look all the same as they did before I even mixed in the different pinks, but I know, yeah, from experience that they will definitely change color, or that's what I'm hoping anyway. And then of course I also have my little ball of the Fimo rose quartz prepared as well. So now that I've prepared all my clay colors, I'm just going to take each ball and roll it into like a snake or a coil, and that way I can place them all together and then begin to chop them up. So again, here I'm just rolling and more rolling. When I've watched these kind of videos on TikTok and Instagram, I always really like these pink kind of themed ones. Oh, here's the good part. So this is where I am chopping up my clay with my blade, and then, you know, it's just a bunch of little random pieces, and then you get to mix it all up, and yeah, all the colors kind of mix and just kind of pull them apart a little bit if they didn't already. And then the other fun part is where you get to pour everything in. So for this design, I'm pouring in some Sculpey liquid clay, and this is a rose gold color, which I got sent from Sculpey when I was part of their kind of like ambassador, like creator kind of person. And then I've also got some acrylic paint as well. This is just a regular white acrylic paint, and I'm pouring some of that in there as well. So now once all the liquidy parts are poured onto the clay, I get to mush them all together, and I realize now that this part is quite messy, and maybe I should have waited for the paint to dry a little bit. I don't know if other people do that first or they just do it while it's wet. They don't really show that in the videos, but anyway, I've just mashed it all together and tried to compact the clay as much as I can so that it's kind of in some sort of clump, even though my hands are super messy. I'm then taking this clear acrylic square, which is also by Sculpey, and this is actually from a bead making kit so that you can kind of swirl beads with it, but I thought it would be perfect for trying to compact my cane and press it down so all the sides are nice and flat. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just pushing down each side of the cane and the top part as well, just to make it like look more square and more of a rectangular prism kind of shape. So once I've cleaned up a little bit, it's now time to cut into the clay cane, and you really need a sharp blade to do this, which of course luckily I have. It's kind of a little bit underwhelming at this stage. I thought maybe I would be able to see the pink colors a little bit better, but they kind of, you know, just look like one color is being mashed together, and I can't really see too much of the white acrylic paint or the rose gold either, but I'm hoping that after baking those colors will show through. Now once I have all my little blocks, I'm just combining them all together so that I can actually create the slab, and I'm using my blade just to kind of push them all together and get rid of those gaps in the middle. I've also got my acrylic clay roller just to flatten it down each time, and it's really just a matter of rolling and pushing and rolling and pushing until I have a nice kind of shape to work with. I think if you have a pasta machine, this part would be a lot easier, but I don't, so this is what I'm going with. So this is what my slab currently looks like. I'm going to leave it at this point, and then I'll do some of the jewelry making, cutting at the end of the video once I've made my other slabs as well. So moving on to the next one, this one I feel like is going to get quite messy. So I've firstly put down a sheet of baking paper, and then I've got 2 balls of my translucent clay. Again, this is just the Sculpey brand, and I'm pressing an indent into the center of each one using my thumb. Then I'm getting quite brave, and I'm grabbing out the purple alcohol ink and adding just a small drop into each one. The first drop I added I felt was quite big, so that's going to be my darker color, and then this second one that I'm mixing now, I added just a tiny little amount of alcohol ink just so the color wasn't so strong, and this is going to be my lighter purple color in the cane. You can see now I've also put on some gloves because I didn't want to risk getting purple alcohol ink everywhere over my hands. I know it stains a lot, it has happened to me before, so I thought it's better to be safe than sorry when I'm mixing this ink into my polymer clay. I've seen a lot of other crafters using alcohol ink to color their polymer clay. It's actually not something that I've tried before, but I think it will be interesting to see how the color changes after baking and if it changes the transparency or the translucency, of the clay. So again, I'm just rolling my bits of clay into coils. I did unfortunately forget to film this part on camera of me chopping it, but here I am mixing up all the little pieces. So I've got my dark purple, my lighter purple, and then I also threw in just some plain translucent clay as well, just so that I had a little bit more color in the cane and it just wasn't completely purple. I also cut up the clay a little bit smaller for this cane, just so that when I do the slab later on, there's not big sections of color in one spot, if you know what I mean. This again is the fun part, pouring everything in. So for this one, I've got some white liquid clay, some white acrylic paint, and I'm pouring in less this time because I felt like I had a lot in the last cane. And then I've also got some gold flakes as well, which I'm just kind of scattering in, and then I'm going ahead and mixing it all together. Again, I probably should have stuck with the gloves and learnt my lesson last time that this part is quite messy, but I went in there with, no gloves, and again, it took a lot to clean up. So I definitely recommend gloves if you don't wait for your paint to dry. This time round, I had a little bit of trouble trying to actually get all the clay to stick together in one big clump. It kind of kept breaking apart, and I'm not quite sure why, because I added less acrylic paint this time and I thought that would help, but apparently not. So I really had to focus on compacting it and really try not to pull it apart. So here I've got my acrylic square and I'm just pressing it all down before then taking my blade, and here I'm doing the big reveal and trimming it. And as you can see, there is, quite a bit of color in this one compared to the last one, and I'm pretty happy so far with how this particular one is turning out. I should mention too that these canes are a lot smaller to what others are making, just because I didn't want to waste a lot of clay if it didn't end up working. So this is really just for experimental purposes, I guess. Here I'm taking all my chopped up bits and I'm going to combine them all and flatten them down. So again, I've got my acrylic roller and I'm just going over the top of it. And then I'm also flipping this one over just to make sure there's no gaps and pressing in all the sides again with my blade. And I'm going to continue doing this until I feel that they're all connected enough. Like I was saying before, the clay on this one had a little bit of trouble connecting together. So I did have a few chunks kind of come out, which I just had to smooth back into the slab. And then this is what the slab looks like. Again, I'm going to cut it at the end and then I'm moving on to my final one. So clearly I couldn't help myself and I'm going to be making a pastel rainbow slab just because I wanted something with a little bit more color and I wanted to see how it would turn out. For this one, I am going to be coloring my clay with some chalk pastels. So here I'm just scraping some of the shavings off into each bit of the clay. And then just like the other slabs, I need to mix until all the bits of clay are colored. And like the other methods, I tried not to add too many chalk pastel shavings because I do know from past experience that if you add too many, the color isn't really that translucent anymore. And I just wanted them to be pastel and slightly colored, which is why they don't look super vibrant now, but I'm hoping after baking that they will kind of be a little bit more lively, I guess. So I rolled all these bits into coils of clay or snakes of clay, whatever you want to call them. And now I'm trimming it all up with my blade and I'm going ahead and kind of mashing it all up and spreading it out with my fingers just to make sure there's not too much of one color in one section. It was a little bit harder with these particular colors because my clay had turned quite soft and it was a little bit hard to separate and spread out, but I eventually got there. Because I am trying to try out as many techniques as I can in this video, for this one I'm going to be adding in some pearl, what did I just add? Powdered pigments, and I just pour this on and I'm gently mixing it all over the clay so that it's nicely covered. To this design, I'm also adding some silver flakes this time instead of gold flakes because I don't know, I just felt like silver would match the vibes a little bit more. And then I've got my white Sculpey liquid clay and I'm mixing that all in. And then finally, I got the hint that this part is super messy. So I've got my gloves on and I'm just kind of compacting it all in my hand and kind of just scrunching it up into a big ball to start off with. And then I'm going to focus on creating the rectangular prism slab so that it's easy to cut. I did actually leave this one off to the side for a little while just so that the translucent clay had a chance to kind of dry in the air and not be super sticky. And then when I cut it, this is what it looks like. Again, this is a really small cane compared to what other people make, so I feel like the reveal isn't super amazing, but I'm hoping that once I combine it all together and actually turn it into the jewelry, it will look pretty cool. So as you can see, I do have a lot of color in this one, and here I'm just doing my compacting strategy again of rolling it with my acrylic roller and pushing it in with the sides of my blade. I didn't know if doing a rainbow slab would be a little bit risky because I know if the colors get mashed together too much, they kind of turn really brown and muddy, but so far so good and it does look okay. So now that I have all three slabs prepared, I've got my cookie cutters as well, and I'm just pressing them into the clay to create some little jewelry pieces. I guess mine aren't actually going to be jewelry pieces, they're just going to be like little gemstone pieces just to try it out. You can see here that my clay is a little bit stuck in my cookie cutters, and if that does happen, you can actually put your clay and the cookie cutter into the freezer, and then once the clay has hardened a little bit, you can just easily pop it out with one of your tools, and it makes the process so much easier than trying to get out sticky clay and then ruining the shape. I'm just continuing with the cookie cutters, and I was trying to be a little bit strategic with this part and get the parts of the slab that actually looked kind of nice, I guess. And then once I had done that, I did have a lot of leftover clay, which of course I didn't want to waste. So I thought I would try and combine this technique with what I usually do, which is of course make kawaii polymer clay charms. And I thought the easiest way to do this was to make some little kawaii star charms using a mold. So I have these yellow molds here, and I actually made these using one of my star charms. So what I did was take the excess slab of clay and I've pushed it into the mold, and then I'm just trimming off the excess on the back and neatening up the shape a little bit more. And then once I popped it out of the mold, this is what it looks like. And I thought I would do this for each color just so I didn't waste any clay. And I wasn't really too worried about what the clay would look like inside the mold. I was really just going for it and pressing it all in there. So I've surprisingly ended up with some really pretty swirls of color. And then of course, once I made all my stars, and honestly the excess clay made like a lot of stars, I'm then going ahead and adding some little kawaii faces just to make them a little bit more of my style. So here I've got them all spread out on my baking sheet, and then I'm just going ahead and baking all of these pieces in my oven according to my package's instructions. And then here's what they look like after baking. You can see that the color has slightly changed a little bit. I'm going to show you more of that at the end of the video. But then the final thing I needed to do was add some glaze. So here I've just poured some UV resin onto my piece. I'm just doing one piece to show you here for the purpose of it, and I'm spreading it around with my brush and of course curing it. And then here for the stars, I've just hung them as I would like any other clay charm that I would glaze. So here they all are once they're finished and looking nice and shiny. Here's also just a comparison of how the colors changed before and after baking. This was the first slab with the pinks, and I think the colors definitely darkened just a little bit, but it's still not super duper translucent or transparent. I think the colors definitely darkened just a little bit, but this clay still doesn't look super duper translucent either. I think it would have looked super pretty if I had added some more of the rose gold liquid clay, and we would have seen that kind of swirl throughout the colors. Then here we have the purple slab. I think this one looks fairly similar before and after baking, but I really love how you can see the swirls of paint and white liquid clay in this one. Then finally we have the rainbow slab, and again the colors have darkened slightly, and while you can tell that the clay isn't opaque, it's still not super translucent either, which I guess is what I was looking for. I don't know if it's because that these pieces that I made are too thick, or it's that I used Sculpey translucent clay for all of mine and other people use a different brand, or maybe it's the type of pigments that I used. However, I definitely had a lot of fun making these, and I think it would be fun to try out some darker colors as well and experiment with different pigments. I'd also really love to use this technique more with my kind of style of charms that I make, like these little kawaii stars. So if you do have any suggestions of how I can incorporate this crystal gemstone look into my charms, please leave some suggestions down below. So that is everything that I have for this video today. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, and also subscribe to my channel for lots more crafty videos, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.